If you're interested in attending Catholic worship, come consider the 10 o'clock a.m. Mass at St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. We're located just 4 blocks up from Soldiers Field Road at 43 Holton Street. You can check out our website at stanthonyalston.org. That's saintanthonyalston.org. And come to the 10 o'clock Mass and experience our chanted Liturgy of the Eucharist every Sunday. Let us offer our consecration to the Lord. Lord, we offer up to you this day as we begin the second week of Lent. Let us be filled with your Spirit as we listen to the words of the first reading, specifically Isaiah, and come to understand where you are calling us. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Well, we're now in the second week of Advent. Remember, Advent is always looking forward to the second coming of Christ as we remember the first coming of Christ. And so we have a lot of prophecy that we read from the Bible that talks about those future times and talks about what we'll see, the suffering servant prophecies, and talks about a lot of what the Lord promises. Isaiah is interesting because Isaiah is considered one of the most important books in the Old Testament. It's one of the most important prophets. Of course, all the prophets are important, but there are the major prophets and then there are the minor prophets, and Isaiah is like number one of the major prophets. And his book is separated into 3 sections. So the first 39 chapters are basically attributed to the prophet Isaiah. The second approximately, I forget how many verses or chapters there are. I think it's about 5. The second part is attributed to actually, it's at 15 actually, is actually called Second Isaiah or Deutero Isaiah, and it's actually believed to be people who followed after Isaiah, and they would have been speaking, and according to the USCCB and the New American Bible Revised Edition, they would have been speaking at the end of the Babylonian exile. We have to understand that's about a 150, 200 year spread. So obviously we're not talking Isaiah at that point. Now we're looking at a time that is roughly around the end of the 600s and the beginning of the 700s. So we're in the 8th century going into the 7th century BC. And we're in Judah, and this is what makes Isaiah so confusing, because Isaiah is prophesying in Judah where all the trouble is happening in Israel. Judah is the southern kingdom. Israel is the northern kingdom. Remember, right now, when we think of Israel, we think of the nation, that one nation that is the Jewish nation in the Middle East, and we see a lot in the news. But back during the time of the prophets, there were 2 Jewish nations, the northern, which was called Israel, and also became the name of the new nation in 1948, and the southern, which was called Judah. Now keep in mind, Israel was also the name of the nation prior to that division, that civil war, for example, in the time of David. And Israel, that name comes from the original name of Jacob. Jacob was renamed Israel by God, which means man who struggles with God, and it also is the land that was given to Abraham, who was his grandfather. So we have that whole picture. Judah was the name of one of his sons, and it becomes the namesake of the southern kingdom. So Isaiah is in the southern kingdom, which came close to being conquered by the Assyrians, as the northern kingdom, in fact, was. The Assyrians, led by Sennacherib, came in and they conquered Israel, and that was the end of Israel until 1948. Judah continues. So Isaiah is preaching to Judah, and the people of Judah, obviously, they are shocked because this conquering nation, almost Assyrians conquering Israel, almost conquered Judah. Imagine it this way. Imagine there was a nation, I don't know, I don't want to get too political into this, but we'll say some nation was going into North America, and I'm trying to think. Maybe it was, well, I'll just, for the heck of it, just say Liechtenstein. So, which is never going to happen. But Liechtenstein comes and decides to conquer, becomes this great massive empire, powerful empire, and it comes to our hemisphere and begins to conquer and conquers Canada. And we all know it's going to then come in and conquer the United States. But through the faithfulness of the people and the respect for God, what happens is Sennacherib is conquered before he can overcome the United States. But how would we feel at that time, recognizing that now there was no more Canada, and then we're here, and we knew that because of returning to the faith, everything was fine? Well, that's the situation Judah was in. You're listening to St. Anthony Overnight, which is part of the Voice of St. Anthony Parish, and we'll be right back right after this. I have a suggestion for you. If you're looking for a place to attend Mass and you thought you'd like to try St. Anthony Parish in Alston, you know I have a standing invitation to anyone who's listening to the radio show to come to the 10 o'clock a.m. Mass every Sunday. Now, if you're looking for a parish to call home and you weren't sure how to go to St. Anthony, especially say, well, what do I do when the collection comes around? I'm going to give you an idea. Here's what to do. Get a piece of paper. Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter what kind, doesn't matter anything. Just write on the piece of paper the word radio. That's all. So write radio, put that in the collection. You don't have to put any money. That tells me that you were listening to the show, you want to experience what St. Anthony is like, and you weren't ready to commit to putting anything in the collection. And that's fine, because your presence is more important than your donation. So here's what we'd like you to do. Write the word radio on a piece of paper, drop that into the collection, and that lets us know you're coming to the parish, want to kind of check it out. Now, if you don't have a local parish to call home and you want to experience a parish, this invitation is for you. So come on down to St. Anthony Parish. We're located at 43 Holton Street in Alston, Massachusetts. We're conveniently located just a stone's throw away from Soldiers Field Road in the Mass Pike. We're back, and we're talking about this powerful message here on this Monday of the second week of Advent. And we're talking about this prophecy that we see. So here you have this terrified Judah, this devastated and no longer in existent Israel, but you still have the Jewish people who are there. And what you see is this basically shock syndrome that is there. So what's happening is Isaiah is predicting what's going to happen in the future. And of course, Isaiah's prediction is way, way, way in the future. And what is he talking about? He's talking about there will be blooming in the desert. There will be a time when everyone will celebrate. There will be this great joy that comes upon the people where they will see great, powerful miracles and great things happen. And the reason is because they put their faith in God himself. And that's the difference. So what's happening is the people of Judah are being called to be more faithful to the Lord. They've seen the devastation that happens. They will eventually encounter this devastation when Babylon conquers them because they haven't listened. But meanwhile, you have this prophecy from Isaiah saying, you will see this happen. You will see justice ring through the land. You will see the land that will have everything that humanity is seeking. Now, the reason is, and this is a reality we see all the time, you always see within these contexts this big fight between the spiritual authority and the political authority. And this all goes right back to the people demanding a king. And the Lord said to them originally, if you really want a king, but you got to understand, kings are problems. And the reason why you're looking at a king is so that you have someone who can now work in the political world But kings are problems because they can water things down, they can change things, they can take authority on them that you may not want. And if you remember that whole passage, and then eventually we see Saul was named. Now, this is many years later. We do have kings now centuries later. But what we're also looking at is that fight between relying on political power, relying on our own ability in the situation at the time to solve the problems on the international stage that are affecting the nation, and trusting in the Lord. And what Isaiah is calling to them to do is return and be more faithful to the Lord, and then you will see the Lord do great and powerful things. So if you think of it this way, and one of the things I want to warn against, it's very important, I am not advocating or supporting in any way a theocracy. But if we understand that the people come back to the Lord, then there will be a more joyful presence of the people because they will follow how the Lord calls them to live. Now, I want you to understand this. Judah and the Israel and the Jewish nation was set up as a theocracy with God as the ultimate authority. And we saw that with David. Even though he was the king, he was very much obedient to the Lord, and when he was disobedient to the Lord and he had it out, and obviously the Lord won. But we see that later on, you see this political power that is no longer focused on the Lord and focused, well, we have to do what we think is right. And instead, what the Lord is saying, come back to me and you will see that I will make it all right. And that's why this is here during Advent. And don't forget, Abraham Lincoln was a very prayerful man who understood that reality, and he put that into practice during his time. We'll be back tomorrow. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. Remember, when you're looking for a place to attend Mass, and if you don't already attend Mass at your local parish, come to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. We're located at 43 Holton Street in Allston, just a few blocks up from Soldiers Field Road. And you can check us out, come to our 10 o'clock a.m. Mass, and come to experience our Catholic worship at St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts.